This is the story of two sisters, Jessica Tate and Mary Campbell. These are the Tates, and these are the Campbells. And this is Soap.
In the last episode of Soap, Leslie was undecided about killing herself, so she decided to kill Billy instead. Dutch has finally decided to decide between Eunice and Corinne. When Bert and Danny decided to stand up to Tibbs, Tibbs decided to have them knocked out. The judge said she would decide on whether Jody or Carol receives custody of Wendy. Now that Mary's baby has decided to appear, will it also be able to disappear? Or will it be as normal as everyone else in the family? And what have the fates decided for Jessica? Confused? You won't be after this episode of Soap.
How many of you remember that series? That one actually predates me. I don't remember that one. Quite the Modern Family, isn't it? And that's been our theme here kind of through this, is that we have a show on TV. We have this belief that Modern Family is unique and it doesn't really match up with what God has had to deal with. And yet today, once again, we're going to probably at least match, maybe even eclipse, even that short little introduction of a story. So we're picking up the saga of Jacob. This is in Genesis 29 and through 31. We're picking up the saga of Jacob. Remember, we left it last week. He is running away because he has swindled his brother. He has deceived his father. His mother has been in this whole mix of manipulation. His brother, all he cares about is getting something good to eat. Same with Dad. It's a mess. She's trying to set him up so that he's on easy street for life. And now he is running for his life from his brother, who is a big-time hunter with nothing in his pockets. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. There's some good news here, folks. The good news is that as Jacob is going out, he's running away, his life is in this chaos. He runs into God. See, we can look at our family lives and go, man, things are not working out the way that I wanted them to, the way that I've meant them to. We have done things wrong. We've gotten things backwards. And there can be a little bit of kind of despair that comes over us as we look at that. But then God shows up. Here is this family that, man, if they walked in our doors, we're like, well, it's a good thing they're here. They really need church, right? Yeah? And God has picked this family and said, through you, I'm going to bless the whole world. He clearly isn't picking them because they're worthy, right? Or because they have their act together. Jacob is on the run. He's on the lam. He's trying to find his uncle. That's where his mom has sent him. And along the way, he stops for a night and he lays down. This guy's so poor, he doesn't even have a pillow. He's got to take a rock and lay his head on that. Good night. In the middle of the night, God shows up in a dream and says, I've got you, Jacob. My hand's on your life. Not because you're good enough. Not because you chose it, not because you are a fully devoted spiritual man, but because I choose to put my mercy on you. That's a wonderful picture of God's grace. Now, Jacob is a swindler. And so he even tries to a little bit kind of manage God here. You know, God's giving him promises. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to bless you. I have a plan for your life. He goes, okay, all right. All right, if you do this for me, I promise I'm going to tithe 10%. He's not making some type of spiritual exercise here, folks. He's trying to buy God off. You might have read his famous book, The Art of the Deal. Jacob is going, okay, I'm gonna have this trade-off. I'll pay God, and his job is to bring good things into my life. He still doesn't quite get it. God didn't put any condition on it. He said, Jacob, I'm going to do this. It's Jacob that said, well, if you do this, then I'll do that. He's still trying to manipulate and try to make things work out for his life. He continues on. He gets to the area that his uncle lives. He is like out of money. He is out of bread. He is starving. He's at his wit's end, and he comes across some shepherds. He's like, where am I at? You know, I'm about done. They go, well, here comes Rachel. She's the daughter of your uncle Laban. He gets all excited. You know, there's a little bit of a to-do there. He runs up to her and he embraces her and kisses her. Now, he's going to eventually kind of get sweet on her, but that's not really what's going on here as much as he is just so thankful to finally be at a place that he's welcomed. She brings him home, and Uncle Laban welcomes him with open arms and says, you are my flesh and blood. You have a safe place here. Do you know how powerful those words were for Jacob in that moment in his life? When everything else was falling apart, I can't go home. My brother's out to kill me. I can't face my dad again. I have no place in this world to be welcomed with open arms. Today's story is really about that extended family, and there's something very powerful about extended family. It's a powerful element in this area. A lot of people have a lot of extended family. It's a very settled area. When I was growing up, my experience was I had a huge extended family. We didn't live close to them. They were kind of down in the Pittsburgh area. We lived in northwest Pennsylvania. But my dad had 12 brothers and sisters. My mom had 11 brothers and sisters. So, I mean, you're just starting off with a lot of aunts and uncles. Then they get married. So you just doubled that number. Then you throw in some divorces. Now you got some girlfriends and some boyfriends, and you got some remarriages. Basically, I got within about 1 billion uncles and aunts when I was growing up. You know, I just, when I met a new person, I just called them uncle or aunt. I figured I had a 50-50 chance there, you know. But they were wonderful people as well as kooky people. You know, we've got all that kind of mix, right? That's what extended family is. There's some good stuff. There's some bad stuff. They're really that box of chocolates. You just don't know what you're going to get, right? You know, you got the crazy uncles, you got the good aunt. And that was our experience. It was a blast going down to Grandma's for Easter. It wasn't it was just a win. You just kind of sat back, you made sure none of the shrapnel hit you, and you just watched the show go on. You're like, wow, this is fun. This is better than any TV show. I'm seeing it live. Right, exactly. Reality TV. That's what it was. And there's a part of extended family that is just wonderful and warm. And when they deliver good things in your life, it can be at that right time. And there's a right place to just kind of be thankful and grateful, as Jacob is in this moment of finding a safe place to land. If you have that type of extended family in your life, thank them for that. That's a good thing. We aren't these isolated, solitary people. We are built as families, and they can bring good things into our life. Jacob lands there, and he's there for about a month. You know, he doesn't have anything, so he's getting kind of taken care of. He's pitching in. That's what you do as a family. He's working the business. He's working the farm. And Uncle Laban comes up to him and says, all right, you've been here for about a month, but it's not right. Even though you're flesh and blood and I'm taking care of you, you should be earning something. You know, I want to help you get on your feet here. You know, I want to give you a sign. Jacob makes a deal. So Uncle Laban says, okay, so what should I pay you? What should be? Well, Rachel's pretty nice. In fact, she's quite fine. And he says, I'd like to have her. Now, in those days, a man paid a dowry to earn a woman. He has nothing. He's got dust in his pockets. Nothing. So Uncle Laban says, okay, you know what? That's a pretty good arrangement. Let's, we're related. This is good. How about you work 7 years for her? He goes, all right, I'll do that. You know, he's getting his housing and his food taken care of, but this is kind of the the extra off the top that he would be saving for a house or a home or putting away. He is putting that towards a dowry, so in 7 years he will earn the right to win her hand. Now, we might kind of think that's a little strange, but really it's not that very much. Today we just call it buying a ring. 7 years of... I did that for Eileen. I went to the store, I looked in all the glass windows, and I carefully picked out the right one. I put my quarter in the slot, turned that thing. It was great. These are the jokes, folks. Yeah. Now, ladies, here's your moment. It says in here that he says he loved Rachel so deeply that the 7 years passed like a wisp. It wasn't even, come on, you got it, come on. Oh, isn't that wonderful? Isn't that beautiful? And so, ladies, that's what you need to write down here, that you're looking for a man that loves you that so deeply that 7 years pass, and it's like nothing to him. For you guys, you need to write down, this is the biblical model of engagement, 7 years, no sex. He waited. I don't know about the 7 years, but you notice that even a swindler like Jacob understood the boundaries that God sets on this, and he says, I'm going to wait. So 7 years pass, he comes, he says, man, it's time. All right, this is wonderful. Laban goes, okay, yeah, let's kind of do this. They have the ceremony. Now they do ceremonies a little bit differently. After the ceremony, Jacob finds his bride in the tent. They have a honeymoon. They wake up the next morning, and it's Leah, her sister. Uncle Laban switched the daughters. Jacob wakes up and goes, oh, my aching back. You might kind of go, how can this happen? Well, tents are dark, They didn't have a candle. Whatever. I don't know. We don't need to get into that. That's right. After 7 years. Now, you might think this is strange, too. But I read about an account about 15 years ago. This happened in India. 2 brothers were getting married, and they have to walk around a fire 7 times. They escorted the sisters around. They lifted the veil. It was the wrong sister, but it was a done deal. Yeah, how about it? But this wasn't a mistake. Uncle Laban had done this. Uncle Laban, and Jacob goes to him and goes, what? How have you tricked me? How dare you do that? I would never, wait, never mind. How dare you trick me? Now, Uncle Laban says, look, I'm not trying to deceive you. It's just that it's our custom that the older daughter has to be married off first. And, I figured in 7 years I'd find somebody, but I couldn't find anyone. It was my duty to make sure my older daughter was taken care of. So it is a trick. It is a swindle, but at least there's a reason of compassion behind that he's trying to take care of Leah. Don't know why she couldn't find a suitor. She didn't look as nice. Maybe she had bad breath in the morning. I don't know. But Uncle Laban was trying to take care of his daughter. He says, look, all right, here's what we're going to do. You can still have Rachel, because I know you really love Rachel. Have a week of honeymoon with Leah, and then you can have a second wedding. And you can marry Rachel, but you have to work another 7 years to win her hand. He's going, all right, I can work with that. Now let's put ourselves in Leah's shoes, all right? How about it? I just got me a new husband. In another week, he gets another bride. And I know what really moves his heart. It's a mess, guys. It has nothing on this, right? What a disaster. Even for that time period, what a remarkable disaster. 2 people that are trying to figure out how to be loved. And the story's going to go that, all right, if I can't find my value in being loved, then I'm going to find my value in producing babies. And they go into this baby war. We're going to talk about that a little bit next week. But there is this chaos that ensues from this one deception that just starts to spread through this family. 2 sisters competing for a husband, competing for worth, so much so they start giving their handmaidens to Jacob. There's a bidding war for Jacob. One of the best stories, well, for a guy is, best stories. He's coming in, and his wife meets him and says, I bought you tonight. You're sleeping with my handmaiden. Yes, dear. It's a crazy story, right? And Uncle Laban is watching this between his daughters and just kind of the chaos of this. 7 years ends out. Jacob still really doesn't own anything. He has worked 14 years for 2 unhappy wives. He has got nothing in the bank. His 401k is at 0. And he's like, I got 12 mouths to feed. I need to start stocking some stuff away. Let me leave. I need to start building my own wealth here. But Uncle Laban has figured out something very important, that God is with Jacob. And he's like, since you've been with me for 14 years, things have gone very well for me, and I'd rather you not leave. Can't we work out a deal? I want to keep you on because, man, I want to keep the good times rolling. This is the 90s. I invested in Apple. I invested in Google. Things are rolling here. You're my lucky penny. Jacob says, well, maybe, but, I got to start earning something. And Laban says, name your price. Name your price, just like you did at the beginning. And he says, I want your daughter. Now he goes, all right, here's what I want. They didn't work in stocks. They worked in sheep. And he says, I want some of the sheep. I want a cut of the produce here. And so he says, what we're going to do to help keep this even is you're going to get all the white sheep. I'm going to get all the spotted and streaked sheep. It's kind of getting into all that mess. Laban says, okay, let's do that. Let's keep this thing rolling here. As long as you're blessing me, I'll make sure you're getting something. So they cut out this deal, and they take Jacob's sheep, and they head out. Jacob keeps Laban's sheep, because Laban wants him to be making sure that he's getting rich. Except old Jacob shows up. He can't just believe that God's watching over him. He's got to fix the dice here. And so there's kind of a crazy story that I don't even quite fully understand. He strips some wood, and it's about feeding troughs. And basically what he's doing, he's manipulating so that it's producing more dark sheep, striped sheep, spotted sheep. If there's a good sheep and it comes time for making new sheep, he makes sure that they saddle up with his sheep, not with his Uncle Laban's sheep. It's a little bit of an insider trading deal type of thing. You got it? These are the jokes, folks. And it says, there's this place where it says, and this is how Jacob became rich. Because he stacked the deck for him. Just can't get away from manipulation. Can't get away from swindling. He's just he can't trust God. I've got to do this. Well, Uncle Laban's other sons start to kind of notice, wait a minute, this isn't ending up to be a 50-50 deal here. He's running away with all of our inheritance. This isn't fair, and they start grumbling. Uncle Laban's a little bit out to lunch, but the brothers know what's going on. And Jacob goes, uh-oh. And he does what good Jacob does. Let's get out of here. Let's run away. Because when there's trouble, I don't want to face it. I don't want to resolve it. I just want to run away. And he goes to his wives and he tells them this sob story of, your Uncle Laban, your dad has he's abused me. He has taken advantage of me. He's changed my wages 10 times. He's not talking about a numeral amount. He's like, if I've told you once, I've told you 100 times type of a thing. He's just constantly changing. He's totally unfair to me. There's this kind of crazy thing where God tells him, it's time for you to leave. But then when he tells that story to his wives, there's a whole lot more to the story. That God recognizes, oh, you have been taken advantage of. Your uncle has not been fair with you. Is that a true story? I don't know. There's a little bit of uncertainty here of going, it's Jacob the swindler. He's the only one in the story, aside from the Leah thing, which Laban did out of love for his daughter, is the only one that is recorded as cheating somebody. So Jacob is even mixing God into this thing and going, see, God's on my side, and he's so awful, and we need to get away from here, or they're going to take everything that we have. And his wives, the sisters, go, yeah, Dad's not been fair to us either. And so they sneak away in the night. They take what is his and they sneak away. It's 3 days before Laban finds out. The sons come and say, do you know he skipped town? He skipped town with your stuff, with your kids. Laban is not pleased. Laban puts together 400 men, and he goes after Jacob. There's only 2 reasons why you put together 400 men. And that's either you're going out to fight a battle, or you're going out to take stuff back. He's going after Jacob. He's a settled man. He's going. He catches up to Jacob. And you know what Jacob says? Uh-oh, I know what's going on here. I'm in danger. I'm about to be wiped out. The night before they are to mix, God intervenes in this situation. He comes down to Laban and he says, you will not touch Jacob. You're going to leave this be. You're not even going to speak evil against him. And he preserves Jacob's life. Laban comes in the next day, and Jacob says, what gives? What gives? He goes, everything you have is mine. These are my daughters. These are my grandkids. Those are my sheep. And I have the power to harm you. So let's not mistake what this little family reunion's about. This isn't, hey, let's meet up for Easter, for Thanksgiving. This is, I'm coming to cut your throat. I've had enough of you. But he says, but God has withheld my hand. But what I don't understand, Jacob, is why didn't you tell me? If you really wanted to leave, I'd have released you. And we would have done it with a celebration. I'd have been able to say goodbye to my daughters and my granddaughters and my grandkids. How could you deceive me like this? But you know what? If you want to leave, that's fine. But what I don't understand is why you stole something from me. You took my precious idols, my idols of God. You know, because Laban wasn't a true worshiper of God yet. God would speak into his life, but he had idols. It was known, not to anyone else, Rachel, his very own daughter. On them skipping out of town, she made sure she took Dad's good stuff. Jacob doesn't know anything about this. He says, why are you coming and accusing me? You go ahead. You go see if you can find it among anyone. If they are, then we'll be guilty. Uncle Laban's going through. He's searching everything. He comes to Rachel, and she says, pardon me, I'm in a delicate part of the month, so I can't stand up. And she has it hidden. And so he passes over that. Can you believe that? A daughter. Barefaced deception before her father. Jacob. Barefaced lie to his father. Who are you? Oh, I'm Esau. To get what they wanted. These are miserable cusses of people. Laban can't find anything, and Jacob's had it. It goes full nuclear. How dare you come and hunt me down? How dare you accuse me? I haven't stolen anything from you. You've mistreated me all these years. You've changed my wages. Maybe Laban has. We can't tell because a liar is telling the story. You've done this to me. And Laban's going, you've done this to me. And you've done that to me. It is a crazy story, guys. This is a biblical story. What are we supposed to do with this? What do we do with this situation? It is not plain or clear to me who is right and who is wrong. They have both stuck each other. They're both lying and swindling. The girls are lying and swindling. It is just a cauldron of muck. And each feels justified to themselves. What do we do with this? Maybe you can relate. Maybe you have some extended family where you go, man, it just goes sideways when we get together. It started out as a little tit for tat, and it snowballed, and now we can't even stand one another. A couple observations of the story so far. First, we need to be careful when we're wronged. Jacob in one sense was wrong. He was cheated right out the gate with the wife. He set the deal. Laban changed it. Now, we might go, well, he was having compassion for his daughter, but you know what? He made him work another 7 years. So there's a little bit of a back and forth there. Maybe that's why Jacob is telling the truth, that Laban did all this underhanded stuff and changed his wages and was always trying to tip the scale to his favor. But what Jacob did with that was, I am justified in giving it right back to him. Because it is plainly clear in this story that Jacob tried to swindle his uncle for all he could get. He set that sheep deal up like nobody's business. He knew what he was doing, and he got away with it. We need to be careful when we're wrong, because it doesn't justify us to do whatever we think is fair in retribution. It is true. We have family members that do us wrong. But our response is not to go, now God has given me a free hand to just stick it back and make it even. Be careful when you're wrong. The second is, you better test your motives. Jacob swindled, set up the sheep deal, and then he used the excuse of God to justify it. And I'm telling you right now, we need to be really careful with that. There's a great line in one of the story in a movie about Abraham and Jacob. And one line, it's not a biblical line, but it's great. It says, "Be careful what you lay at the door of the Lord." Don't accuse God or use God to justify what you do. There's a place where Jacob needed to own his stuff. And what did he do? He knew he was in trouble, and he skipped town again. He didn't come and say, hey, let's work this out. Maybe we've had a misunderstanding. He knew what he was about. And so if you're in that place of conflict with family, you need to test your own motives and go, what part of this is mine? The third observation is that sometimes we just need to see from the other person's point of view. This little blow up at the end is a pretty good tit for tat. Laban's giving it to Jacob, Jacob's giving it back, and it's kind of a messy situation. They both are in ways kind of right about the situation, but neither one of them can see it from the other person's point of view, and it has created this major conflict such that Laban was coming out to whack Jacob and take back his stuff. When we get into the heat of the battle with family, and right now, I don't know that there's anything controversial going on in our lives as a country that might, cause some conflict. I don't know. Probably a Dallas fan is in your family or something like that. A New England fan. They're voting for the wrong person, right? Sometimes we need to just take a breather and go, let's look at it from the other person's view. Do you understand that Jacob got after Laban saying, I didn't steal a thing, when his wife sat right over there having stolen it? Just because you don't know something doesn't give you the right to jump down somebody's throat. Sometimes we need to go, I don't have all the information. Laban was right to be mad about that. What do we do with this mess? Jacob has a decision to make. And he makes a very good one. He's got a very unhappy uncle. He's trying to make it on his own. What's going to happen here? they do some very important steps that I think we can take lessons from. The very first thing that Laban and Jacob finally they've exploded with this argument, and now they come back to rationality, and they say, let's set a boundary. Jacob takes a pile of rocks, and he sets it up, and he says, right there, I'm not going to go any further towards you. I will not harm you again. Laban makes a pile of rocks and says, I will not cross this boundary to come and harm you. There's something really important about that. It seems strange to us to set up a pile of rocks, and I'm not suggesting that if you have an argument with your family to go grab some rocks. That's probably not a good thing. A physical pile of rocks isn't going to make sense to us, but being able to say, you know what, I know what's going to create conflict in this situation, and I'm not going to go there. And if someone baits me, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to stay where this is appropriate. It's not that they came and resolved everything. They still have quite a disagreement, but they could decide on going, you know what, I'm going to stop going after you, and you're going to stop going after me. We're going to set a boundary line. And that's one of the most powerful ways that you can handle the relationships in extended families. Thanksgiving's coming, folks. Maybe you need to take some boundary lines, not rocks, boundary lines, and say, I could run away, I could just avoid these people, or I could say, you know what, you still matter to me. I'm just understanding if we get into this area, it's not going to go well, so we're going to stay out of that. That's smart. The second is to have a conviction to do what is right. One of the terms here by Laban, he says, look, if you mistreat my daughters, or if you take any wives beside my daughters, even though no one is with you, remember God is a witness. Laban's concern is his daughters. He's watched that chaos of the baby wars, and he's like, oh my goodness, I just want to make sure you're going to do right by my daughters. And Jacob has to say, yes, I'm going to do right. This is that place where we don't take, if I've been wrong, that gives me a right to do wrong back. Setting a boundary is also a conviction to say, I'm going to do what's right. I am committed to doing the right thing. I'm not going to abuse anyone. I'm not going to take advantage of everyone. I'm not going to try to manipulate this. I'm going to do what's right. What God has shown me to do what's right. And it has nothing to do with how anybody else acts, behaves, or treats me. I'm going to do the right thing. Powerful commitment there. The third, then, is to let God work. They complete this and say, may the God of Abraham, the God of our father, judge between us. See, he didn't say, Laban go, I'm going to follow you around. I'm going to send some spies. And Jacob isn't going, I'm going to make sure that you're keeping your part of it. We're going to make this agreement. We're going to go our separate ways, and we're going to let God deal with this. And if one of us goes outside the bounds, it's not for us to exact the justice. We're going to let God deal with you. Do you understand how wonderful of a place this is to release the desire for justice, the desire to get everybody right, and to say, I'm going to do what's right, and I'm going to let God deal with you. I'm going to trust God for that. 3 wonderful decisions there, right? Set a boundary. I'm not going to go here. I'm going to do what's right, and I'm going to let God have room to work. And they were able then to take a 4th step, to make peace. It says, Jacob offered a sacrifice there on the hill country, invited his relatives, Uncle Laban, all the guys, to a meal. And they ate, and they spent the night there. And early the next morning, Laban kissed his grandchildren and his daughters, and he blessed them, and he headed home. They still don't agree about what happened in the past, and that's okay. You're going to have people that you can't untangle the knots. They just are what they are, but there's a place where you have to kind of make some peace with this. That's different than keeping the peace. Keeping the peace was running away, was not telling Uncle Laban, wasn't bringing his grievances before him. oh, I'm just trying to keep this under wraps. That's junk. This is making peace. All right, we've set a boundary. We're not going to harm each other. We're going to move forward. And you know what? We can be civil with one another. He can recognize these are his daughters. These are his granddaughters. That's all he wanted. I wanted to say goodbye. I wanted to bless them. Make peace as it is possible for you to do. There are those that won't accept it, but for your part, make peace. What's amazing, this is exactly what Paul tells us in Romans 12. He says, don't repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it's possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Don't take revenge, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, it's mine to avenge. I'll repay. I'll settle the matters, says the Lord. Extended family can be a blessing, but if you are caught in a place where you're in that chaos and that conflict, let's take a page from Jacob. Make a good decision here. Set the boundary. Do what's right. Leave room for God to work. Make peace as far as you can. Can we do that? We're going to transition into communion, a place where extended family gathers, his sons and his daughters. Jesus talks to us about that. He says, if you have a problem with your brother, go deal with it. Leave your gift at the altar. Don't pretend that everything is okay with me when something is wrong with someone else. Go, make it right. Work it out. Today I'm going to invite you forward to the table, and maybe you can't work it out right now in this moment, but you can make a decision to say, yep, you know what, there is somebody that I got a problem with, and I need to work that out. And as I come and I receive from God's table as a son and daughter, I commit to that path of peace.